Ooh, that looks tasty.
The Old Kingdom is in danger. Enemy armies are attacking from every direction, sent by the Master of Shadows, who seeks to cast eternal darkness across the land. You must band together to collect the fabled power stones needed to save the kingdom. If you succeed, you'll save the kingdom and win the game. However, should even one territory fall under the control of the Master of Shadows, you will lose the kingdom to darkness.
Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another game review. And today, we are talking about Roll for Adventure, which is a game by Matthew Dunstan and Brett J. Gilbert, and published by Cosmos. Now, and thank you to Treehouse Ted for doing the voiceover intro again today. Also, please make sure you turn on your Klingon subtitles just in case I make a gameplay mistake. That is where you will find any corrections. And so what the game is like all fantasy games, there is a great evil that is out to destroy the kingdom or the world. And it's up to our intrepid heroes, in this case, our Avenger, our Healer, our Protector, and our Thief, to save the day. And what they have to do is they have to travel through these four realms of the forest, the desert, the ice cave, and this evil fortress here in order to recover enough gems to make the magical book work. When the magic book works, it is unlocked, we are able to defeat the evil Master of Shadows, and the realm is saved. And if you're unable to do that, then get used to your new, hopefully benevolent overlord. And this is a dice rolling, somewhat push your luck game and a dice placement game. Now, if you do not need to know anything more than that and are just curious about my final thoughts, then you're going to want to jump ahead to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us that are still here, let's do a rundown of how this game works. So, as I've already told you, we are trying to get 5 magic gems here to make this book of magic work. I will say that there are several levels of difficulty you can play, and the levels of difficulty simply change by how many gems you're trying to get. It goes up to 7, I believe. So this is actually one of the easier ones that I have set up. It's also important to note that in addition to the 4 characters that I have out, there are actually a bunch more. As you can see, there's an adventurer, a fighter, a warrior, a frost runner, a sorcerer, and a summoner. And all of them have slightly different abilities. What you're also seeing here is down here, we have our vortex here, and I'll explain what that does later on. And up here we have our enemy deck, that's where the discard is. And along with that, I will also point out that there are a fair number of enemies that are not included in what I have set up. They are a little bit more advanced, a little more difficult. Those are your dragons and your phantoms and your giants. And I have not put those in the deck for the moment. It doesn't matter for what I'm trying to show you. And you'll see each character has their own set of dice, and they're just D6s. Looks like my Avenger's a little bit out of camera. Let me move it over. And then what we have out here is we have our 4 realms, and I'm going to explain what each of them does in a minute. And at the bottom we have their damage tracker. As the realms are attacked, the damage will go up, and if ever any of them reach the end, one of the realms has fallen and you have lost. And I'll show you these little plastic skulls here. They're actually pretty cool. And so how the game works is it's actually pretty simple. What you're going to do is, one at a time, you'll go around, you'll start with one hero, then you'll go down the line, each one rolling, is you're going to roll all of your dice. And so I'll start with my Avenger here. Before I start, I will tell you that the Avenger has a special ability of once per turn, if you defeat an enemy, you may move all of the dice used to defeat it to 1 or more territories. That will make sense in just a minute. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my dice here, and I'm going to roll. And you'll see I got a whole bunch of 2s, a 1, and a 3. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one number that I'm going to use. If I pick 2, I could place all of the 2s out. If I pick 1, I could place all of the 1s, and so on. And the choices I have of where I can place those dice are, I can place them on one of these zones that can take a 2, I can place it on a revealed enemy, and they come out on their different zones, and you have to do 6 damage to kill all of the enemies. Or I can place it on the vortex here, which is how you recover lost dice, and that will make sense in just a moment. And each one of these realms has a different way that you use it. And I will also say that each one of these realms also has a B-side, which is slightly more difficult on the other, so you can flip these over however you want, and you can make a harder or easier game that way as well. But on this side, the A side, to get gems here on the desert, you place 1s. And after you place 3 1s, then one of those dice comes over here, and the other dice get returned. Then after you get 3 1s there, you lose one of those dice forever, and then you gain a gem. And you can do that as many times as you like. And on the forest here, you'll see that there are 4 4s, 4 3s, and 4 2s. And you have to put your dice there, and once you've gotten all 4 filled, you remove one of these magical barriers. Once you've removed all 3 magical barriers, you gain a power stone, and the barriers come back. I guess they would be more barrier-like if I turned them that way. And you can do that as many times as you want. Then on the forest, you start over here, and you're putting 5s or 6s. So the first time you have to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 5s or 6s, and that unlocks the first gem. Then this barrier moves over here. Then you have to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 5s or 6s. That unlocks the second one, and you can do this one 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Over here we have the ice cave. In the ice cave, you cannot unlock any gems, but what you do is once you get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, if you get 4 of them, you can activate the ice cave, and every character that has a color there, one of their dice, gets to claim one of these bonus dice, which they get to use once, and then they'll go back to the ice cave after they've been used. If they get 5 of these here, not only do they get the dice, but they also get to kill an active enemy. And if they get all 6, not only do they get the dice, they get to kill an active enemy, and they get to heal one of the realms completely. That is how all those various things work. And let me just show you how a turn works. So if you remember, I rolled a 3, a 1, and 3 2s. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my 3 2s here, and I'm going to place them on the fortress here. Make use of all that. Now that I've used one number, I then take all the dice I have left over, and I roll them again. And this time I have 2 1s. And I'm going to go ahead and use my 2 1s, and I'm going to place them both right here into the desert. That is the end of the Avenger's turn. Then I would take an enemy card and flip it up. And here we have the Vampire Bats. So they're a level 1 monster, and that'll make sense in a minute. And they come out here, and what they do is they attack. And they will be killing a 2, a 3, and a 4. As many of those as they can. I have no 3s, I have no 4s, all I have are 2s. So it attacks one of my dice, and it goes into the middle of the board. If I had had nothing there, and there was no dice for it to take, it would then do a damage to that zone. And then that's the end of my Avenger's turn. Now I'm going to go on to my healer. And you'll see my healer here has the ability so I can forfeit 1 die, and that will allow me to reduce the damage being taken by a territory. So I could have given up a die to stop damage from happening in one of those zones. And then I will go ahead and I will roll my 4 dice. My 5 dice, and you'll see I got 2 2s, a 1, a 4, and a 5. Well, I want to go ahead and unlock this spot right here, so I will place those there, and immediately this barrier comes off. And then these go back over to my Avenger, and these will come back to my healer. And then I will roll again, and you'll see I got a 6, a 1, and a 2. So I'm going to go ahead and use that 6, and I'm going to kill that Vampire Bat. And so my bat here goes into the discard pile, and that comes back to my healer. Then I will roll again, and you'll see I have a 6 and a 3. Well, let's go ahead and take that 3 and put it here in my ice cave, and then I roll again, and I got a 5, and I will take that 5 and put it also in the ice cave. Then I draw a monster, and this time I got a 1, and it goes into the ice cave, and you'll see it wants to kill a 6 first. Then if there's no 6, a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. So it kills my 5, and it goes there, and there is my wolf right there. Now it is the Protector's turn. And then I re-roll, and I got a 5, And I'm going to go ahead and put that right here in the recovery area. And so what this recovery vortex does is you can put dice in here, and once there are dice that equal up to at least 10, all of the dice in the middle get returned to the player boards. The only thing is, once you've placed a single die here, one or more, then your turn is over. So that's why I waited till the very last to use that. Then I draw an enemy, and we'll see we have a cave troll. Now it's going to do the same thing that the wolf did, and it's going to kill that 6 there. But what's important is its level, this level 2, because had this wolf still been here, every monster that is of a lower level would then also attack. So if I had not killed that wolf, I would have lost my 6 like I did. Then the wolf would also attack, and I would also have lost my 4. And if I had no dice there at all, then the realm would actually take 2 damage. But luckily for me, I killed the wolf, and now I can move on to my thief. And then I roll my last one, and it is another 5. So I'm going to put that here in the vortex, which means these dice get returned to their characters. And so you see how the game works, and you keep working through here. I'll finish up the turn. We have a crypt spirit, which goes here in the fortress. There are no dice there, so I would have taken a damage. And so you can see how the game works. It's pretty simple, and you keep going around and around with your players. The only other thing that I need to mention is there is the big bad, who is the Master of Shadows. And you'll see every single enemy that's out on the board gets to attack, and then you roll this big territory die right here. And you'll see that I rolled this one right here. And so what this means is that every single territory out there will take a damage. So when it came up, I would have taken 1 damage here, up to 2 damage from that attack. The cave troll would attack, and then every single territory would take another damage. The other thing that I could have rolled was simply a zone, and that would mean that one of these other zones takes 2 damage. And the final option is I could have gotten lucky and rolled nothing. Then once you have played the Master of Shadows, it gets shuffled back into the draw deck. So what do I think of this game? First of all, I will just come out and say I think this is a good game. I really enjoy it. I think it does a good job of accomplishing and realizing its theme. I think as you play, it does feel like you have these 4 heroes that are going out there and against overwhelming odds trying to get the gems to get this MacGuffin that will save the day. And the further on in the game you get, the more harried you become, because you can't really keep up with all these monsters as you start losing dice, because maybe you've gotten some gems here, or you have your dice locked up in one of the zones as you're trying to get those gems, complete those subtasks, or maybe you've just been attacked and your dice are in the middle. It really becomes a lot of a puzzle, and it does feel like you are constantly being beset and there's just a few people left that can save the day. And so I think that is really cool. I also will say I really like the components of the game. I think it's attractive to look at. All of these cardboard pieces, it's thick cardboard, it's very sturdy. The color is good, it's attractive, and these dice, I really like them. And I know they're just D6s, but they're very nice D6s, and they make me happy. And this die here is just beautiful, the way it is, and the printing and everything on it. It's great. And the next thing I'll say is I think as far as a dice rolling game goes, I think the mechanics are really, really solid. It's just fun, it's simple, it's easy to play, but really hard to master. There is that level of push your luck as you're trying to decide, which ones do I want to take? Do I want to make use of this time that I happen to roll 3 2s or 4 2s to get that out there, but I'm going to sacrifice the one thing that I've been trying to get to take care of a monster or whatever it might be. It's an awesome push your luck. And I like that there's this dice placement mechanic. As you're putting your stuff out there, you have to be careful you're not spreading yourself too thin, because if you do, you're just out of dice, and so you have to focus, but you also have to make use of the dice, and it becomes this awesome puzzle. So I really enjoy that. I enjoy all of the mechanics of the different realms. On the reverse side, there are very different mechanics, but they are all the same idea, and I will say they are all harder, and I think that's just really well done. And I enjoy the way these monsters work. I like that they come out and they knock out your dice. They destroy the progress you're making, but in some ways, it's better that you let them destroy your progress, because otherwise they are leading you towards utter defeat. And that is just terrifying as you go on, because the more and more monsters you let build up out here, you're pushing your luck here as well, because you're hoping that you don't flip over a 3. If I flipped over a gray 3, not only is that attacking, but now there's Crypt Spirits attacking as well, and I'm going to take 2 more damage. And you're trying to do it very quickly because you don't want that Master of Shadows to come out. The Master of Shadows is always in the bottom third of the deck. And once it comes out, then you're in a whole nother world of hurt, because it might do damage everywhere. It might do damage nowhere. It might hit one place really hard. And so I think all of that is wonderful. I also think that the variety in characters is fantastic. All of these characters have very different abilities on the bottom, and I will say, the first times that I played this game, there's some of these that I thought, why would I ever want to use that character, that ability? And then I started using them anyway, and even though to my brain at first it didn't seem like they were a good choice, it just is because I wasn't thinking in the way that that character should be used. They actually are all fairly balanced. It just requires a different style of play in order to make use of their abilities, and I really like that. I love that there are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 different characters in the base game. That is awesome. Speaking of extra things in the base game, I am playing it right now on the easiest mode possible. I have flipped none of the tiles, and I have none of these particularly nasty creatures in the game. You'll see, these giants are 3s, the phantoms are 1s and 2s, the dragons, they're all different. You might have a 6 out there. So it just does a really good job of giving a very high replay value. And then the next thing I'll say is overall the game is pretty simple. I explained the rules to you fairly quickly and then showed you an entire turn and actually made some pretty solid progress. And it was quick. This is a fast game. Once you know how to play, you can knock out a game of this in half an hour, maybe even faster. It plays very easily. If you like to solo play, you can play all 4 characters, no problem whatsoever. So I think all of that is just really good. I have no complaints about any of that. Now let's jump to my few quibbles that I do have about the game. And the first one is with the art. Is the art bad? No, not at all. And I like, again, the way it looks on the table, but I will say that I just am not excited by the art. It's not bad at all. There's nothing bad about this art, but I'm not really sucked in by it. I don't really care who these characters are. They just don't grab me. But once I've seen it, I'm not really looking at it anymore. I'm just looking at the mechanics of it. And the same thing is true for the monsters here. Again, that's a perfectly good piece of artwork. It's just not particularly exciting to me. And then the only other thing that I have to complain about is the box. Because this is another instance where, to me, the box makes no sense. So here is the box, and it's a very pretty box, but it's huge. It's just this massive box, and there is no challenge whatsoever getting everything back in this box. But you get everything in, and then you have a ton of space left over, and I just don't understand it, because this is a hobby where space is at such a premium. Now, maybe Cosmos is planning on releasing expansions to fill the box up, and if that's the case, if you get the expansions, you can all get it in the first box, then that's fantastic. But to me, right now, it's just a bit of a bummer that the box is just so big. So, there you have it, folks. That is Roll for Adventure. I think this is a fun game. I think it is a fast, light dice chucker with a lot of push your luck elements, really well devised dice placement that go in there. It's a real puzzle that you have to figure out. It's not easy, and the choices that you make matter. These characters do a great job of differentiating the gameplay each time. If you're a person like me who likes pretty much anything fantasy and likes rolling dice, then this is a game that you almost have to check out. I think this is really a good title from Cosmos. I think it's fun, it's fast, I enjoy it. I've really had a very, very good time with it. If I happen to make any mistakes in the gameplay discussion, please let me know with the timestamp so I can get that into the Klingon subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, all of those things, because I do have a lot more coming in the future. And I will also add that I do apologize for the snoring puppy in the background. She happened to have a surgery recently, so she's been sleeping a lot. So I do apologize for the puppy snores in the back. As always, thank you so very much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.